This episode includes discussion of violence against women, including references to recent allegations and incidents involving public figures such as Sean Combs, Chris Brown, Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, DDG, and Halle Bailey. My commentary focuses on the broader societal patterns that impact the safety and well-being of Black women. These conversations are important, but they can also be heavy, so please take care of yourself while listening. If you or someone you know has experienced violence or abuse, I've included a resource and hotline in the episode description. Thank you.
Realer than real. Hello everyone, welcome back. It's so nice to see you here today. Welcome back to the best podcast in the world. I would even argue it's the best podcast in the galaxy, and I might even go as far as to say that it is the best podcast in the space and time continuum that we are currently in. But that's just me. I might be a little biased. If you're not new to this podcast, you know that the typical format is that I kind of keep it lighthearted in Act 1 of the podcast, and then Act 2, depending on what I'm talking about. But if I do have something more serious, I save it for the second half. But for this podcast, I want to switch it up only because, well, one, these topics are very heavy on my heart. Just in the sense that I feel very passionate about talking about them, but I also think just like with some of the sensitivities of what I'm talking about, I wanted to put it ahead of some of the more whimsical or just less serious topics that I have. So with that being said, there was a trigger warning at the beginning of the podcast. Obviously, just want to reiterate that if topics such as the ones listed in the trigger warning at the beginning are not something you have the capacity for, that's totally fine. I would recommend skipping to Act 2 of this podcast, or if this one just isn't for you, I respect your boundaries, and I love you, and I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope to see you on the next episode. I think I want to start this topic off by just saying that I think we are in a terrible empathy crisis right now within our society. I can really only speak about U.S. culture mainly, and I think I can only really speak about what is happening online, right? Which I know for as many people that are online, I know there's a majority of people that aren't, or at least people that are on social media but maybe don't voice every opinion they have. But from what I'm seeing on social media, we are in the worst type of empathy crisis that I've seen. I've been thinking that we've been in this empathy crisis for a while. I feel like I started really believing that around COVID. I think watching people, knowing that people were dying from COVID and watching people not wear masks in public, refusing to wear them even when they were required, refusing to wear masks in public, socially gathering when it was not encouraged, people themselves going out who did not feel sick. I think it was incredibly selfish, especially if they were like going out to socialize. But I say all that to say that it's only gotten worse. I think we have become a society that is so, we have become a society that is so devoid of having empathy for one another, whether or not it's because having empathy makes you look weak, depending on your gender and some of the, antiquated gender roles. Having empathy can make you look, soft, make you look like a simp, just all these stupid things. But given the events that have happened within the past week and how that discourse has unfolded on social media, I believe we are at an all-time peak of, we're in an empathy crisis. We're in a critical thinking crisis. We're in a believing evidence that is right in our faces crisis. And it gets to a point. It gets to a point where it's fucking scary. And I am almost like I'm genuinely terrified of how such levels of lacking of empathy can affect society to come. If the people right now that are lacking the empathy and they're the ones that are tweeting things about victims like Cassie, who is taking the stand against someone who has abused her physically and sexually and has caused mental turmoil on her. If there are people who are tweeting that she's a gold digger and that she looked happy when she was with him, those people are tweeting that. I have to believe that they believe that and they preach that in their lives. Now, if that person has a kid and they're instilling those morals in that kid, what is to come then of the next generation? If the parents of today are speaking about women in the media who have gone through verbal, physical, and emotional abuse and manipulation, are speaking about the women and making them seem like the villains, but then but then in the same breath turning around and saying that men should be forgiven, what are we raising the next generation to believe when it comes to victims? We're in this place right now with society where society wants us to forgive men for their mistakes, but keep women in these frigid boxes. Men are allowed to make mistakes. And if you don't believe me, there is a phrase as old as time. Boys will be boys. That is an indicator that we have based our society around forgiving men for the shit that they do. And I'm not just talking about the small stuff. I'm talking about the literal crimes that have been committed against women. We've just been told to get over it. Even thinking outside of that, think about when you were younger and stuff and you were in school. What was the old trend? A boy that picks on you means he likes you. We have been instilling these values into our society, and worsely into the, young girls that grow up to be women in society, that boys will be boys, so they'll just do whatever they want. And if he's mean to you, that means he likes you. We have been instilling that. So it as sick and twisted as it is, it makes sense how we've arrived at this point to where we as a society are constantly being forced and pushed to forgive men for their mistakes, to let them learn and grow. Don't cancel him. He's on his journey. Let's support him in this journey of growth. But for a woman, it's, well, she's just there for the money. She should have left. She should have seen the signs earlier. Oh, I wouldn't have done that if I was her. Interesting. Men like Chris Brown have been able to make the same mistake since his early 20s. When he beat and bruised and battered Rihanna, he was, I believe, in his early 20s. Let me actually see the age. Chris Brown was 20 years old when he beat Rihanna. And when he beat, battered, and bruised Rihanna and injured her so badly that she was nearly beyond recognition. He was 20 years old when he did that. Just this week, I'm filming this again Saturday, May 17th. Just this week, Chris Brown has been arrested and detained and denied bond in Manchester for assaulting a producer in a nightclub by hitting him over the head with a bottle. This producer's defense team said that the injuries that he sustained 2 years ago from that event are still very significant. Chris Brown was 20 years old when he beat Rihanna. He is 35 years old, and since 20 to now, he has had a consistent pattern of physical assault against women and men alike. But yet and still, the fans of him, and whether or not we can argue that we can separate the art from the artist, that's not the question right now. That's a topic for another day. The people that specifically defend him with his actions in mind, we're not talking about the music. We're talking about who he is as a person and the things that he has done. The people that defend those actions specifically have been saying for years, he was just a boy when he did that. Let it go. At 35, is he still a boy? Or is he finally a grown man who is allowed to take responsibility for his actions? But no, based on society rules, boys will be boys, and we just got to forgive them. We just got to move on. But then you flip the situation and you take someone like Halle Bailey, who just filed for a restraining order and received that restraining order against DDG because he has been abusive towards her, because he has consistently put their child in dangerous places, because he has put her in situations with his exes that have, because he has otherwise just not respected her, not only as a woman, as the mother of his child and as his girlfriend. He has come online and rallied his fans to attack her because she wants to keep her son with them, because she's the one actually doing the parenting and not just flaunting their child around on stream like he's an accessory. DDG has opened up the floodgates for his fans and other people in media, DJ academics of all fucking people, to run his mouth. DDG has allowed people to do that. But Halle gets all the blame for that. She should have known, right? She should have known. She should have known not to get pregnant by him. Halle is responsible for the actions of DDG because she just should have known. But Chris Brown can't even be responsible for his own actions that he's been perpetuating since he was 20. The reason this is all so heavy on my heart, this week was quite the week for men who have perpetuated violence against women, because as of this week, the trial of Sean Combs, famously known as P. Diddy, started this week. And I mean, it's already just been so much. This might be one of the biggest cases, I think, of my lifetime. I was born in 97, and I don't really know if this counts as a landmark case, but this feels very significant. I mean, there's been tons of, judicial things that have happened in my lifetime, but this feels very significant as I am an adult who can kind of fully understand things as they're happening. The first time I talked about P. Diddy on this podcast was when the video of him beating Cassie in the Intercontinental hallway. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know when that video was released, but CNN released a video. I want to even say it might have been this time last year, but CNN released a video where Cassie Ventura, P. Diddy's ex, was trying to leave. At the time, we didn't know if she was trying to leave him or if she was just leaving the hotel, if she was trying to escape, whatever the case may be. She was trying to leave. P. Diddy came running down the hallway in a towel. He pulled her to the ground. He punched her. He dragged her. He kicked her. He dragged her by her hair. He kicked her. He stomped on her. He threw vases at her while she laid on the ground. She wasn't fighting back. She just laid there. That video came out, and then it became very clear, I think, of what kind of person P. Diddy had been all this time. I think that video really cemented for a lot of people what kind of monster P. Diddy is. I can't even say was, but the monster that he still currently is. Under New York's Adult Survivor Act, Cassie filed a lawsuit against P. Diddy, where she accused P. Diddy of rape, physical assault, and coercion into non-consensual sexual acts during their decade-long relationship. Within 24 hours of that lawsuit happening, P. Diddy settled out of court for $22 million. Less than 24 hours. I believe Cassie's lawsuit, in conjunction with the fact that he settled out of court in less than 24 hours for the amount that he did, I believe that is what launched the federal investigation. That's what launched the raid. And that's how we're here now. I do want to preface this next part by saying that I'm in no means taking on the role of a reporter of the case. There are so many actual qualified reporters or reporters and journalists that are on social media reporting daily, or there's even like some I've seen on Twitter who are like tweeting live what is being said in the courtroom. There are also content creators who are speaking with this with a lot of tact and doing it justice. I urge you in any capacity, if you have any interest in learning about this case and seeing how it unfolds and getting real-time updates and knowing what's being said in this courtroom, because I don't know if it's because this is a federal trial or because it's in New York, but there are no cameras allowed in this court, so it's not something we can all watch like the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. So all we have to rely on is people reporting back what's happening in court. I urge you, though, if you are interested at all in keeping up with this trial, I will leave like some of the content creators I've been following on TikTok who have been reporting on this, content creators and journalists alike. I urge you to stay away from people who talk about this case as if it's hot tea and hot gossip. There was a journalist, I don't know his name, but he was talking about this case and making jokes and making innuendos, and it was so distasteful, and that's putting it lightly. It made me so uncomfortable because even if that is your personality, I think to talk about this, especially if you were actually sitting in that courtroom and hearing the things that Cassie was talking about and seeing the way that she looked as she was recounting, a decade of abuse, I think is so distasteful. But that's my anecdote about that. So I think we're on like day 3 or 4 of the trial, and so far, Cassie has testified, a male escort has testified, the security guard from the hotel from the video, he's testified, and I believe a member of Danity Kane has testified, Dawn. I don't know the members of Danity Kane. I don't know her last name, but I do know her first name is Dawn. Obviously, Cassie's testimony is one of the most damning, as she has obviously that firsthand experience and probably the longest experience of Diddy's abuse, his manipulation, his coercion, his everything, just his completely despicable and disgusting ways. She has the most firsthand and longest experience. And the criticisms that I hear about her from the worst people online, it's the same stuff you always hear about women in these situations. Why didn't she leave sooner? She looked like, I think TMZ had released a video relatively recently. And it was like footage from P. Diddy's like 40th birthday party. And you can see in that video, like him and Cassie, quote, and I'm saying this with heaviest air quotes, they look fine. And all the replies in that video that I saw on Twitter, and actually I'm going to stop calling it Twitter because the Twitter that I knew is not the same now. Elon Musk has made Twitter an app that I can't even go into that, and I won't because I know it'll get me worked up, and I'm trying to remain somewhat relaxed for this topic, I think. But what I've seen on X, all the replies that I saw of that video are just people saying like, oh, she looks happy then. It doesn't look like someone who's enduring abuse right like in that moment. She looks fine to me. So I'm seeing a lot of that. People like pulling up old pictures and saying like, oh, she looks fine to me. She doesn't look like she's, on drugs and stuff and this. I'm seeing those comments. And then it's also, of course, the comments of like, oh, why didn't she leave? This is all for the money, all this stuff like that. And of course, to any of us who are not suffering from the empathy crisis, who are not suffering from the critical thinking crisis, who are not suffering from the believing the fucking evidence that's right in front of our fucking face crisis, we understand we understand many things are happening at once, right? What we're seeing in these videos, what we're seeing in these pictures that people are pulling up is a literal snapshot, a moment within a 10-year long sexually abusive and manipulative relationship. And if you can't even understand that one fucking picture does not define what happened in a 10-year relationship, we have a bigger problem. And that's why I say we're in a critical thinking crisis. There's just no way. I cannot imagine being in the mind of someone who looks at a singular picture or a 5-minute video and says, oh, well, everything looks fine here, so everything must have been fine for all 10 years. That's not how that works. I think it's also just so... ignorant is the only word that's coming to mind, but there's a word that I think is worse. I just can't think of it. But like, I think it is so ignorant to think that people understand. I think it is so ignorant to dismiss the emotional and mental turmoil that an abusive relationship can have on a person. I myself have never been in one. I know people that have been in them. But I tend to watch a lot of criminal psychology videos. And so I've learned a lot about that kind of stuff. But even before that, I've learned a lot about what can happen in a physical relationship, what those power dynamics look like, and what can make a person stay. Because when you are naive, when you lack, I think, critical thinking or any type of empathy, in your mind, you're just like, oh, why can't that person, if someone's not treating you well, just leave. But it's not the same as, breaking up with a bad boyfriend, which is one of Diddy's, like, that's one of the pillars, I guess, of Diddy's defense team, is that he's just a bad partner. That's, it's almost so disrespectful and such a bad take or such a bad defense that it borders on comical, that you think that you are a $1 million paid lawyer and that's your defense. Okay. This is not the same as just like breaking up with a boyfriend, because it's to understand why abuse victims can't leave, you have to understand, I think, the cycle of abuse. And again, I'm not claiming to be an expert in anything. These are just things that I've learned over the years just from watching videos that explain this. But the cycle of abuse is essentially, you start with tensions building. This is where the abuser will often create very tense situations that will put the person that's being abused on guard. This will make them very tense, and this will make them want to, they're trying to do everything they can to get this person to calm down, because based on how they've been together in the past, they know it will upset them. The second part being the incident. This is, whatever the abuser is going to do to, kind of exert their control over that person. They're going to do that. After that comes the reconciliation. This is the abuser making excuses, attempting to apologize, things of that nature. And then you have the calm. So imagine that. That's 4 steps. That's 4 steps that someone was put through for 10 years. And you think it would be just easy to leave. I just think Cassie going up on that stand, as pregnant as she is, and having to recount this while her husband is sitting in the courtroom, being supportive. I also think it was very interesting. I think it was very disgusting that Diddy tried to stop Cassie's husband from coming into the courtroom. Again, it is him trying to show that he has power over this situation. And I just... I struggle to sit here and believe that with everything that's being said, Cassie's not the only one that's saying she was abused. The male escort that was interviewed said he witnessed Cassie being beat, and he didn't jump in because he was afraid. Not my favorite thing that you were going to say, but I understand. I think you were scared. I mean, if he's doing this to her, you don't want to be next. Diddy's a terrifying person. The security guard from the hotel testified that Cash was being beat. Also, we saw the video. And mind you, when that video first came out, what we first saw was maybe about 5 minutes. That video goes on for 15 minutes. The full version was just dropped by TMZ, I believe. The full version is 15 minutes. In day 2 of her testimony, Cassie said that Diddy saw her talking to a producer at a party or a club or something like that, and he proceeded to beat her for 10 minutes. Yet and still, with everything that Cassie is saying, and with all of her stories being corroborated by different people, you still have people up there with the audacity to sit up here and say, I think it's all for money. Going back to my earlier comments about how we as a society we've been molded, we've been shaped, and we've been directed to constantly forgive men, create safe spaces for men, protect men, protect them. Specifically in someone like the case of P. Diddy, it's protecting not only him, but his reputation. For some reason, with these men, it's not only just about who they are as a person, but it's about their reputation. P. Diddy R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, all men that people who are defending them, it always comes up about their legacy. Specifically with P. Diddy, what I think is so interesting is that P. Diddy has kind of marketed himself as someone who has rose to power by any means necessary. Bad Boy Records. I fucking wonder. He has consistently made his upbringing about how he has schemed and conned people. Why is it then so hard to believe that someone who has done the things that he's done to get ahead in the music industry and the entertainment industry, and I'm not even just talking about, what he portrays in music. I'm not even talking about some of the alleged stuff, like, that he might be, probably is. This is truly my opinion, that I think he did have a hand in both the murders of Tupac and Biggie. We're talking about the stuff that he's actually done. Diddy has been involved in shootings at clubs in which it has been alleged that other people have taken the rap for. I think I mentioned this in the first video, but if you haven't and you are at all interested in any of this, I'd recommend watching Patrick CC's, I think the video is called The Diddy Files, in which he basically recounts Diddy's entire criminal history. When you watch that video and you see that Diddy is not only a monster as far as the things that he puts people through using sexual coercion and using physical abuse, when you realize that he has actually been involved in a lot of criminal activity as well, there really shouldn't be any thought as to why the same person cannot be responsible for both things. It makes sense. But the thing that is so maddening to me is that people are not defending P. Diddy, Sean Combs, the person. They are putting his career and the things that he has done, they're defending that versus defending what Cassie has actually been through. So you're not defending Sean. And what that reads to me is like, oh, he's a terrible person, but he's done A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. So we can't say he's a bad person. I think before R. Kelly went to jail, he put out, I think, this egregiously long song. I think it's about 14 minutes, in which he admits to a bunch of stupid stuff. He's like, oh, I admit I like to party, all this stuff. And what's interesting in that song is if you listen to that song, it always comes back to, I admit I did this, I admit I do that, but I shouldn't be, punished because I made music and I made everyone dance for so long. And it's crazy to think that that's how these powerful men think that the world operates. Because you've put out art, or you've created artists, that you get to treat people like shit because you think you've contributed something to society. That's not how that works. And it's actually really sick and twisted to think that that's how, particularly when it comes to, rather successful men, but that has to come from the psychosis of being a celebrity. I mean, yeah, because, you get treatment that is probably unfathomable to the average person when you're a famous person. So, and it's because of your accolades. So of course you would think that your accolades would be able to get you out of trouble. And someone like P. Diddy has gotten out of trouble, maybe not because of his accolades, but because he has the resources to do so. P. Diddy has always had money. He's always been able to pay people off. There's one case in particular, and I believe this is the case with, it was a shooting at a nightclub when he was with J-Lo. And I do believe that's why people are so surprised she's not called onto the stand, but the trial is not about any of that stuff. The trial really is about all of his, the sexual allegations, the coercion, the trafficking, things like that. But there was a situation at a nightclub where I guess P. Diddy saw a rival or something, and they both put out their guns. They both shot. P. Diddy ended up shooting a woman in the face who ended up living. And I do believe to this day, she says she saw verbatim the bullet that was coming from her came from P. Diddy's gun. What ended up happening from that trial, I believe, is that two people, it was P. Diddy and someone else he was with who I guess maybe wasn't bad boy. It was just a groupie or whatever, or someone in his crew. They were both obviously on defense. P. Diddy had one lawyer and the other person did not have a lawyer. And basically, that other person was told you have to take the fall for him. And I think this is what that person said. I think he might be out of jail now. And he said that that's what he was told. I do believe that. I'm trying to remember where I saw that, because I don't think that was in Patrick Cece's video. I must have been watching a different video that detailed the life and times of P. Diddy. But in any regard, again, P. Diddy is someone who has probably used his reputation to get him out of things. The problem now is that this is just not a regular case. This is a federal case. And the reason I have emphasis on it being a federal case is, again, one of the criticisms about Cassie is that she's doing this for money. Within a federal case, honey, there's no conversation about money. When Cassie first filed her lawsuit, her civil lawsuit against Diddy, he paid her out $22 million. In her testimony from either today or yesterday. No, today is... Oh, well, yesterday would have been Friday. Yeah, from either Friday or Thursday. She said, the words out of her mouth, she would give back all of that money if it meant she could undo everything from the freak-offs, everything from the trauma, the entire 10-year span of a relationship. She said she would give that money back if she could get rid of it. It's not about the money. It's really not. But also, this is a federal case. The federal government doesn't want any of his money. When the government gets involved, it is because they believe there are serious crimes being committed. The charges that Diddy is facing are sex trafficking and racketeering. These are not allegations that you should take lightly or that you should take as financial gain for anybody. I also believe that federal prosecutors do not take on cases that they don't have damn near 95% of the evidence for. The burden of proof for federal prosecutors is it's a federal case. The burden of proof is so much more intense than it would be for a civil case, and the consequences are so much more dire. It is not about money, it is about accountability. Accountability particularly for a criminal enterprise and abuse of power as large as P. Diddy has perpetuated for years, for many years of his career. Our society is built on centering male experiences and protecting their reputations, even when it's at the sake and the safety of women. When people as powerful as P. Diddy face allegations, victims who come forward are said to be doing it for the money. Even more so, the accusations of sexual assault get thrown aside because the bigger story is that, Diddy might be gay. Again, that's another one of his defense team's tactics, is that, our client, Sean Combs, is being put on trial for his sexual preferences, for his kinks. Actually, before I close out, I do want to read what his defense team is, what their stances are, and then what the prosecution stances are. So the defense team, they are starting off with an acknowledgement of violence without criminal intent. Combs' attorneys have conceded that he was violent towards Cassie Ventura, but argued that such actions do not constitute sex trafficking or racketeering. They suggest that the violence was part of a toxic relationship dynamic rather than criminal behavior. To me, that's rather confusing because physical abuse is a crime. So I don't understand that. I mean, I do understand what they're saying, but it's also kind of like, I guess in their eyes, they're saying that it was mutually abusive. That still doesn't make it okay for me. But then again, I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a defense attorney, so I wouldn't know. Introduction of the defense introduced the possibility that Combs' previously undisclosed bipolar disorder may have influenced his behavior during the alleged 2018 assault. They questioned Cassie about whether she suggested that his actions could be attributed to his mental health condition. In regards to the video, the 15-minute video of P. Diddy beating Cassie in that hotel hallway, what defense is now saying is that was coming from I believe they said it was basically like related to drugs. Like it was either like a withdrawal or something like that. And that's what caused that to happen. And I just think that's stupid. Like I feel like I just think that's asinine. I think that's fucking insane to say. Like, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but his lawyers have also suggested that the abuse in the relationship might be mutual, implied that both parties are equally responsible for the toxic dynamic. They bring this up because the timeline of Cassie getting into other relationships with people like Kid Cudi, they argued that because she was quote unquote, and I'm saying this again with heavy air quotes, that she was quote unquote cheating on Diddy, that she created, or that is what spiraled some of his domestic violence moments against her. I want to say this right now, and you'll hear this from people who are much more qualified to speak on this from me. Mutual abuse is not a thing. If one person initiates the abuse, the person on the other side of it is defending themselves every single time, especially in a situation like this where there's a clear power imbalance. The defense also says that the defense has attempted to frame the freak-off sex parties as a part of consensual swinger lifestyle. They have questioned Cassie about her participation in these events and have used text messages to suggest that she was an active participant, thereby challenging the narrative of the coercion. By them showing texts that Cassie, is saying that she enjoyed the freak offs or that she is setting them up, they're trying to say, oh, by this, she's saying that. Cassie, the way she talks about the freak off, she talks about them like it was her job. I think in her trial or in her testimony from Friday, she said that she literally feels like a sex worker. That's not consensual. That's coercion. And then of course, they're trying to undermine her credibility with their cross-examinations and things like that. Prosecution stances are as follows. Prosecution argues that Combs orchestrated a pattern of coercive and controlling behavior over his ex-girlfriend, Cassie, during their decade-long relationship. Cassie testified about being forced into drug-fueled freak-off parties where she was coerced into non-consensual sexual acts with male escorts. She described how Combs used threats of manipulation to maintain control over her, creating an environment of fear and compliance. Cassie testified that when she would confront him about the things that were done and when she would threaten to leave him, they would be in public on a private plane or just out and about. He would pull out his phone and pull up a video of the freak offs. And he would basically say, if you leave, I will make this public. That is control. That is manipulation. That is blackmail. Continuing to the next point, the prosecution presented evidence that Combs recorded these sexual encounters and used the footage to blackmail her, threatening to release explicit videos to maintain his dominance over her. This tactic is central to the charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, as it demonstrates the use of coercion and control for illicit purposes. And I do know that in addition to those who have testified so far, I believe there are 2 other female witnesses who have remained anonymous. Like they've only been referenced by pseudonyms in articles. They're also coming to testify. So I think there's a lot of evidence stacked against him, and I think that his defense team, I think it's really weak. Now, of course, I have no law education. My only kind of knowledge of the law and things like that is truly what I've seen in TV, but also what I've seen from like educational YouTube videos. I do think that their defense is really poor. And I do think that if their defense is basically that, oh, we know he's a bad person, but the things that come after that but are not, it's just not enough in my opinion. But again, I don't know what I know. I really just have to see the way we all have to see how this all unfolds. But my call to action for this is really that some people just get a fucking grip. Like, and that's the only way that I can think of it. I can't imagine how some people can sit up there and constantly try to defend people who have shown you time and time again they are not good people. I think sitting up here and trying to make reason out of why someone like DDG would abuse the mother of his child, why someone like Tory Lanez would try and shoot Megan, why someone like Chris Brown continues to be abusive, why someone like P. Diddy has assaulted so many women in his lifetime. instead of sitting there and trying to rationalize that behavior, the first question out of your mouth should be, and how are the women? I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Megan, I'm so sorry that no one believed you and people made a mockery of you in social media, in music. I'm so sorry that Nicki Minaj used that as a main point in her poorly written and produced diss track towards you. Rihanna, I'm so sorry that to this day, people say, oh, well, Rihanna got over it, so you need to get over it. I'm so sorry that that's happening. Halle, I'm so sorry that the actions of your terrible baby father are somehow becoming your mistakes. Cassie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you went through that for 10 years. And now that you finally have the courage to speak up, people are deducing it down to you being out for money. I'm so sorry that like there are tweets out there saying that Cassie's husband should like leave her. I'm so sorry that there are tweets out there of people making jokes about it because it's just not funny. I get so emotional about this because it's not just the lack of empathy that gets me, but it is truly scary to think that as a woman, you are stuck in this box and you can't, if you come forward about something, people don't believe you. If you never say anything, people blame you for never saying anything. If you're a single mom, people blame you because there's no dad in the picture. But, then if there's a dad in the picture, but let's say, the mom is doing all the work to take care of the kids and the mom asks for help. It's like, oh, well, the man is working all the time and you can't take care of kids. It's what you're supposed to do. My heart aches for myself and for women that have to live in this society that is just, no matter what we do, no matter what advancements we make, no matter no matter the roads that we take, no matter what happens, we will always be confined, and it's not just by men, but sometimes it's by other women who subscribe to this belief system that men can do no wrong. It's so scary. It's so frightening to be in a world like that. Oh, I didn't want to get emotional because I didn't want it to be, I didn't want to make it about me, because it's not about me. This is genuinely, I really didn't want to get emotional because I didn't want it to be oh, Shamira's crying again. Because I genuinely did just want to focus on how strong of a person I think Cassie is, and how I hope that this gives her a better feeling. But my heart aches for all the women that have been brought up in the media in the past week, because I just imagine how difficult it is. But, I'd like to believe that for as many people out there that are loudmouths and saying that they don't support women and all this other stuff and just saying all these other heinous things, I can only hope and believe. And I know this because I support women, and I know people in my life, men and women alike, who also support and believe women. I know that there are communities and wide groups of people, large groups of people who believe women and support women no matter what. And who don't center men's innocence, and who don't center men's, ignorance and their, All right, I'm going to take a little break and we'll be right back.
Hi friends, if you're enjoying the show so far, and trust me, I know you are, don't forget to like this video on YouTube and be sure to give this podcast a 5-star rating on wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you'd be so kind as to follow the pod on all the socials linked below, I'd give you the biggest, wettest, fattest, juiciest kiss ever. K, love you, bye.
you guys, and we are back. Welcome back to Act 2 of the podcast. Or for those who may have skipped the first half because it was too much, welcome. I will stay with the tradition of this podcast, and at the top of the second half of the podcast, if you're not new to this, you're true to this, you know that we talk about things that we are enjoying. In the hopes that I will share the things that I'm enjoying lately, in the hopes that you will find some way to let me know what things you're enjoying, whether that be the comment section of this podcast on YouTube, the comment section of this podcast on Spotify, or, and I always forget to do this, but if I like put something on my story about like, oh, have you listened to the podcast? Tell me some things you're enjoying, you putting it on there. But right now I have 3 things, and I actually wrote them out. So I'm very proud of myself. One thing I've been enjoying is taking walks. I've been very stressed lately, you guys, for several reasons. Just been having a lot of anxiety. And I hate to say it, the health and wellness girlies who say you need sometimes you just need fresh air to clear your mind, I fear they might be right. Because even when I just take like my little walks downtown, I do feel a little bit better. I don't know what it is. I do think it is really just the vitamin D and the fresh air that really do just make you feel better. I just wish I lived closer to a body of water. I do live close to downtown Baltimore, so obviously like I live near the harbor, but I don't live close enough to the harbor to where I could just walk there during the workday. I think that'd be like my only wish, is that if I just lived even near like a little body of water, I'd be so happy. Just like there is something about, even just last weekend, it was Mother's Day. Of course, you guys know, or you can imagine that must have been a little bit of a heavy weekend for me. And I just went to sit in front of the water, and I was already so stressed from everything else going on in my life and thinking about how it was going to be Mother's Day, and it was just a lot going on in my mind. And I just went and sat in front of the water, and I felt myself getting emotional, and I wasn't even really thinking about anything. I think it was just like a moment of being able to sit still. Almost started crying, and then also I was listening to my music, and The Climb by Miley Cyrus was coming on, and I lied to y'all not, The Climb has made me cry more times than I maybe should admit, but it's such a beautiful song, and that song has gotten me through some moments. You hear me? Some moments. So yeah, I've been enjoying my walks. The next thing I've been enjoying, especially like now that it's starting to get warmer, I've been enjoying my salads and my sandwiches. I kind of feel like during the summertime, well, it's not even really the summertime, but it's basically hot like it is the summertime, but during the summer and spring, I don't like to eat a lot of like super heavy dishes, not the way I do in the winter. Like, you know, in the wintertime, I'm trying to eat soups and heavy pasta dishes. In the spring and summertime, give me a salad, give me like a nice refreshing sandwich, just something, not even necessarily something light, but just something cold. Like, I love it. I love it so much. I've lately been going to Sweet Green a lot. Sweet Green has an amazing kale Caesar salad that I'm obsessed with. And then, if you don't know, you know this now, but I'm a big Panera fan. I freaking love Panera. Panera bread will always have a place in my heart. And I get the bacon turkey bravo, and it is the best thing ever. So I've really been enjoying my salads and my sandwiches as we get into the hotter months. And lately, I've really been enjoying editing. And I know some of y'all are like, interesting, because you haven't edited a damn thing for this podcast. And you ate with that. I understand. I've been enjoying editing my short form content. Not to get like techie. No, I'm joking. But I recently, so at first when I was making short form content, I would edit it within the TikTok app. And that was fine, but sometimes the TikTok app is just like, it lacks certain things that just make it a little more annoying to do things. I can't think of any examples right now. Well, even something as simple like as, okay, not to get like too deep into the jargon of content creation and editing, but like when you attach an audio onto something on TikTok, you can't split that audio up. So let's say I'm like doing like a cleaning video or something, and let's say I'm like, I wipe like my bathroom floor and I pick up a bunch of like dust and hair. In the video, I would probably like react to it and be like, gross. But then when I'm editing in TikTok, I can't split that audio so let's say the music is playing for the beginning. I want the music to not play for that part where I'm reacting and then continue to play. You can't do that in TikTok. And if you can, I don't know how. So I've been using CapCut recently. And I like CapCut a lot. It just has a lot more features. It's a lot more user friendly. You can do a lot of things on there. Access to just like better fonts and different like animations and stuff. It's just so much better, and it helps you make such an engaging video. And I've noticed that the more I've used it and the more I've gotten used to it, and now I pay for CapCut Premium, it's just, I've been able to step my editing up so much, and I'm so happy about it. But I'm also happy about it because editing has always been my favorite part of content creation, but it makes me happy when other people have been noticing it, and I've been getting a lot of comments referencing it. And then my friends at work who like also watch my stuff, they're like, your editing is just so good. And so it makes me happy to like kind of feel like people are like seeing my work and stuff. That makes me very happy. And content creation has just been like really fun lately. I posted this vlog about the Baltimore flea market that happens every weekend, and I posted it on Instagram, which if you know me, you know it's a big step because I literally hate posting anything on Instagram. But I posted it on there and I tagged them in it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait for them to see it. But like they never saw it, like they just kept reposting other stuff. So I'm like, okay, they didn't see it yet. I'm gonna cry if they never say anything. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just send it to them. Like, why not? So I sent it to them. I sent them like this long message. Actually, wait, I can read you guys the message because I was like being really nice. But I really do enjoy going to the flea market, and I just think like that's such a cool thing that happens here that I literally have never known about. Okay, so I said, hi, I'm a Baltimore-based / DC content creator, and I made this vlog style video about my trip to the flea market this past Saturday. I just want to say I always have a fun time at the flea and flea-related events because they not only do the flea market, but they'll do like jewelry markets and things like that. And I really appreciate the atmosphere and the vibe you all curate at these events. I don't expect anything in return, but I just wanted you all to see the content I made. Thanks. And then I put a heart emoji. And they responded, that makes our day. And they like reposted my video on their story, and they commented on it, and they followed me. And then like a bunch of other vendors from the flea market like also commented on it. And like that's like just such a fulfilling feeling. Like to just feel as a content creator, to like be seen. Like recently Pine Saw commented on one of my videos, and I was gagged because y'all, well, you might not know, but you know, I love cleaning, and Pine Saw is literally like, that's my bread and butter. So I was like so gagged. So I've been having a lot of fun with content creation because I've just been feeling good about it. Which is funny because that topic is not next, but that'll connect me to my last topic. But yeah, those are some things I've been enjoying. Please let me know the things you've been enjoying, and let's all just enjoy some things together. So it is May 17th right now. We are getting closer and closer. Like I said, it already feels like it's summertime, but we are getting closer and closer to the actual start of summer. It kind of feels like summer at work because all the students have left campus, so it's very empty. We're switching to our summer schedule soon, so that'll be nice. But summer's in full effect, and I don't know if I actually said this on here, but one of the things I'm looking forward to this summer is to actually enjoy summer. So in the past, I've said this before, I know I have. I hate summertime. I hate it. Aside from the fact that like I just get hot and sweaty all the time, and I feel like I never know what to wear, and I'm just consistently sweating, and it's sweating in all the wrong places, and I just feel so gross and achy. Aside from that, I never felt like I was having fun in the summer. I would get on social media and I'd see people that like I know just, I feel like they're constantly on vacation, or they just look like they're having so much fun. And I feel like for the longest time, whether it's because my family didn't have enough money or because I was just always working, I never did anything during the summertime. And if I did, I'd do like just one thing during the summer. And maybe that's like normal, and maybe everyone else's lives I'm seeing are just like insanely privileged. I don't know, but I just never feel like I did anything. But even like, you know, even just, I feel like last summer, maybe even the summer before, I just did not do a lot of things. But this summer I told myself that I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to go out. I'm going to see what the world has to offer me. And I'm going to have some fun. I think the thing for me is that I guess I wanted to have fun without spending any money or very little amounts of money. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, you will have to spend some money to have fun. And sometimes your fun is going to cost a lot of money, and sometimes it's not going to cost anything. But I think there's like a range of things. So I've so far started making a list of some things that I'm looking forward to doing this summer. So the first thing, I'm trying to get a few more tattoos, but I do think that my next two will be cover-ups. I have a tattoo on my hip The tattoo are the letters BTR and has a pink cowgirl hat on it. Now, I know you're wondering, Shamira, what does BTR stand for? And bitch, you know what it fucking stands for. Oh my God. It's Big Time Rush. And it's so embarrassing. Here's the thing. And I don't think I've fully talked about the BTR brain rot that me and my friend Aaron experienced when we saw the reunion tour. And I won't talk about it in this episode. I will save that for the next one. Basically, the brain rot got so bad, we decided to ink it on our bodies. And so now we both have matching Big Time Rush tattoos with pink cowgirl hats on them. The cowgirl hat is significant because we got them in Nashville, and that was my first time flying to Nashville, and also my first time seeing her, like, in Nashville. So we just got it as, like, a little memory to, like, the yeehaw. My pink cowgirl hat, it's on the coffee table. You can't see it. I am pointing to it, though. But I wore it in a few episodes on this podcast. That's where I got that hat from. So it's significant for many reasons, but it's just... two members of Big Time Rush are problematic as hell, and I just can't anymore. It's embarrassing. The tattoo itself, I don't think it's embarrassing. It's a very cute tattoo, and it's in a cute place. It's just the fact that 2 out of 4, 50% of the band is pissing me off, and it's just gotta go. So I'm looking to get that one covered up. I also have like a little angel on my back shoulder. It's cute. Just the line work just isn't as precise as I want it to be. One of my friends from work, Shy, she says that I should keep it because she loves when she can tell it's someone's like first tattoo because of like the quality not being the best. I don't know. We'll see. I think I want to cover it up though. But the thing is that it's so big and that there's so many lines to it that the only way that I could see myself getting something to cover it up would just be, I'd have to get something that is bigger and like heavy shading. And I've already done that once. My tattoo on my left collarbone up here, I got one of those, like, you know, the hearts that says mom in the middle, but I hated the font on it. So I got it covered up with a planet, Saturn, which is good because Capricorn is a ruler of Saturn, or Saturn is a ruler of Capricorn. Which way is it? Either way. So it like makes sense, but I'm like, I don't know what other heavy shaded thing to get on my back. I do have like a Pinterest board of cover up tattoo ideas. So I don't know. I would like to maybe get both of those covered up this summer, but we'll see. I also would like to get my second hole pierced. I found my second hole pierced before my ears, but I've always taken out the earring too early. So I want to get a second hole pierced so I can wear more jewelry and I won't take it out for 3 years if that's what it takes. I'm going to go to the beach. Let's go get away. I like the beach sometimes. Honestly, I like taking a nap on the beach. Get me a chair, get me some shade, and give me some sunglasses. I'll take my cute pictures, and then I'm about to knock out. There's something about the sound of like waves and like just people in the distance, might I add. There's nothing more annoying than if you're sitting at the beach and you were like relaxing. Like you visibly look relaxed and someone comes and sets up their stuff next to you and they're the ones with the blaring music. Have some decorum. But I'm looking forward to going to the beach just to like be at the beach. There's a part of me that wants to go to like a water park or something, but literally only because I want to get on a lazy Susan and I just want to relax. And I just feel like that is such an adult thing to want to do. Like imagine driving far out to a water park, paying water park prices, and going directly to the lazy Susan and just doing that all day, sitting in a large rubber, I don't even know what, like a rubber tube, just to like float down a river. That sounds nice. That sounds really nice. I need to do it. I need to. And then I think just in general, I just want to be outside. I think like definitely want to like do more like local festivals and stuff and do that kind of stuff. And even, you know, you don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money at those things. Like if it's free admission, you really just have to pay for like if you want food and stuff, which you're probably going to want to because like you're surrounded by all these food vendors and drink vendors, and you might even find like a few like local vendors who sell things you're interested in. But I think just in general, like I want to be outside more. Like I can't, and it's so insane that I've just now had this thought, but like I can't keep saying I hate the summertime, but all I ever do is stay inside. Like, I know this is where the AC is, Shamira, but you need to go outside and have some fun. So I think it'll be good. I'm excited to, like, Baltimore has a lot of fun things in the summer. I'm so excited to go to my first baseball game. I love, which is crazy because I'm not really a sports girl, but I do like a good baseball game, especially if we win. But Orioles have not been good this season. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Oh. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the summertime, I think. It's kind of like a big deal for me. I think that's why I'm talking about it so much, is like, it is kind of like a big deal for me to like get outside and enjoy the summer as an adult. Oh, also, how could I forget this? I'm in literally two weeks from today. I will already be back from seeing Beyonce in Jersey with my younger cousin Mackenzie. We had this idea to go. I got the tickets for her as a graduation present. We split the cost of everything else. We will be going to see Cowboy Carter, and my mind cannot fathom that I am going to see Beyonce live. I cannot fathom it. I have no words. I have no outfit, actually, but I mainly have no words. So I'm so excited for that. I will be vlogging that wherever I can, so be on the lookout for it. But I think that's going to be a really good way to start off my summer. Hearing some of those songs like, and I'm so happy because she's doing songs from Renaissance as well, because I love Cowboy Carter. It's a beautiful album. Renaissance, though, was my album, and I'm so sad I never got to see the Renaissance tour. I saw the movie as many times as I could, and it was an incredible experience, but I bet seeing the tour would have been amazing. But knowing that she's still performing some of the songs on this tour, and it's some of my favorite ones, the only ones so far that she's not doing that like are my favorites, I don't think she's doing Alien Superstar. I haven't seen anything about it yet. And I don't think she's doing Summer Renaissance, but she's doing Pure Honey. She does America Has a Problem with Blue, which, oh my God, Blue Ivy Carter is taking it this tour. And our birthdays are 2 days apart. So yeah, I do feel like I'm connected to her. And what about it? I'm pretty sure she does Thick. Thick is good and it's underrated. Oh, if she was doing All Up in Your Mind, I'd live. But it's just going to be so much fun. That's going to be a really good way to start my summer off. So I'm looking forward to it. But yes, okay, going back to my things I've been enjoying. How I said I've been enjoying editing and I've been enjoying content recently. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is an awkward situation I had with someone who is close to me. They had just said some really hurtful things about my content, particularly about the podcast. So they really disrespected you all. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I don't know. We were kind of talking about podcasts in general, and well, let me set up the situation. And I'm going to try and be vague. I don't know if this person will listen to this and figure out that it's them. If they do, maybe they'll reach out and apologize. I don't really know. It is what it is. I will say now at this moment, well, where do I even start? Okay. I'm going to try to keep it vague as possible. And if this person figures out that I'm talking about them, it is what it is. The fact of the matter is that it really didn't hit me that this was disrespectful until after the fact. And I was like, wait, is that why I'm feeling so weird about this now? Because it didn't hit me until afterwards. But basically, I was with this person. We were talking about podcasts. I brought up Joe Rogan. And then this person just like kind of shit on me and my podcast. The comment that I made about Joe Rogan is that I just thought it was weird that he like switched to political content, right? Obviously I said that not ever having listened to Joe Rogan, and I don't think I would. In general, just from me not really agreeing with his political takes, however often or not often he does that, I just have no interest in hearing what Joe Rogan has to say. Like, I don't care that he's popular. There are like popular musicians I don't listen to just because it's not even like I don't care. It's just like it's never crossed my mind to listen to it. I have like very specific people that I listen to for podcasts, and not even to sound like pretentious. I don't listen to a bunch of podcasts. I'm more likely to be listening to music on my way home. The main podcast I listen to is like the Bald and the Beautiful with Trixie and Katya, and I listen to Chris Hansen's Predators I've Caught podcast. Those are like my main two. And then my own. But I don't even really listen to my own podcast. I more so listen to it like when I'm editing and stuff. But yeah, like I brought up how I just like didn't like his stuff, and then that kind of resulted in this person just like kind of jumping down my throat. And the comment that stood out to the most to me about what happened is that, you know, this person asked me a question. They were like, well, why do you think Joe Rogan's so successful? And I said, because he has resources. And he said, yeah, right. That's why he's successful. I wasn't wrong, right? Like, and the reason I framed it like that, like, is because in a sense, right? In a sense, me and Joe Rogan are on the same, we're both podcasters, right? So from my mind, what makes someone successful in making a podcast, because I also create podcasts, what makes someone successful is consistency. And to have consistency in making long form content, you have to have the resources to do so. And resources could look different for everyone else. But the difference between me and Joe Rogan, right, is that one, that's his job to do that. Well, like he's a celebrity, so he like has multiple jobs. But like the Joe Rogan, what is it called? The experience. The Joe Rogan experience is his job, right? So he clocks in and out to do that. The Really Than Real podcast is not my job. It's my love child, and I love it so much, but it's not my job. I have a real life job. I have a job that I work from 9 to 5, but I also commute 2 hours to get to and 2 hours to get home. You know, which means I'm also waking up at like, you know, sometimes 5:30, 6 a.m. There's a resource in being able to only do this as your main thing, right? So that's one resource. Then we have the resource of having a crew. I'm going to assume because he's in a studio, Joe Rogan has people to, you know, fix his lighting, fix his sound, make sure things are okay. The only thing I'm assuming that Joe Rogan has to do is, you know, have his topics. And a lot of times it just seems like he's having a conversation. So it's not like a podcast in which there's a script that he writes and then he is reading off of that. It's a very conversational based podcast. So the only thing he's having to do is sit down and talk, because everything else is pretty much done for him. That's different. For me, I've purchased all of this with my own money. Mind you, I don't have former host of X Factor. I don't know what he did in UFC. I think he was a ring announcer. I don't really know how UFC works, but he was involved in that. I don't have that kind of money. I have marketing and communications coordinator money, you know? So I bought all my stuff. I set all my stuff up, which means I had to teach myself minimal levels, but still I had to teach myself audio and stuff. And once I get multiple setups for microphones, that's gonna be a whole other thing I have to learn about. But I had to teach myself this. You know, there was one time where I had corrupt footage on my camera. I had to teach myself how to figure that out. All this stuff I have to figure out on my own because I don't have anyone else. To have people around to help you, that is another resource. And again, Joe Rogan is a celebrity. Joe Rogan is a celebrity. So, you know, if you knew him from Fear Factor, like I did, you'd be like, oh shit, I know this guy from Fear Factor. Let me listen to his podcast. Being known is a resource. So when I said he has resources, that's what I meant. I don't think that's what this person took it as, because then they started talking about the things that I talk about in my podcast. And they kind of said that, like, you know, they were like, well, what is your podcast about? And I said, oh, I talk about like pop culture and things like that. And the response verbatim was stupid shit that no one cares about. That's what that person said. Ouch. Ouchie. Ouch, ouch, ouch. That kind of stung a little bit. And there's a lot of reasons why. Okay, so after all that happened, I'm sure in your head you're like, Shamira, you love this podcast so much. You just told us how much you love making content. I'm sure you punched that person dead in their face. I did not. I did not. Because like I was saying in the beginning, it happened so quickly, and I think I was so caught off guard that me making a minor comment about Joe Rogan sparked all this, that I think it just made me so uncomfortable. It also was like the context in which it happened, which I don't want to say, only because, again, like I said, if this person listens to this and figures out that it's them, then we can maybe have a conversation about it. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, I'm just going to let it pass because whatever it is what it is. Specifically within the context of what happened. And I know, like, I keep being very vague about it for my own reasons, so it might be annoying for you to listen to, but I'm trying to realize, one, I might be a bit of a people pleaser, because I definitely feel like even after the fact, I could have definitely texted that person and been like, hey, so actually what you said was rude, uncalled for, and actually disrespectful as fuck and hella unnecessary. I could have texted them, but I'm really just trying to keep the peace, because this person's relationship to me, it means a lot. You know, I'm someone who, I believe in the strength of connections. I believe that it's important to have community around you. And maybe, I don't know if that makes me a people pleaser. I don't know what that makes me, but I do feel like in some instances, I definitely had the right to like cuss that person out and maybe even remove myself from that situation in general. Like, I could have just said, okay, bet, like, I'm going to go home. Y'all have a good day. But I don't know. So I'm trying to, I've been like thinking about why I didn't say anything in that moment and why I didn't leave. But I think, again, it was because of the context of the situation, and why we were like kind of all gathering. But like in that same regard too, I'm also thinking about like, okay, well, you know, the closer you get with someone, not everything is going to be, oh, we agree on everything, we get along so well. I think that, you know, people are different, and sometimes instead of meshing, you're going to collide a little bit, you know? So I'm trying to understand that balance of, is this just an argument that we can get over because it's just natural that people can sometimes have disagreements? Or is this something where it's like, oh no, a boundary was crossed? And like, it's weird. Like it's weird because I'm telling y'all right now, I don't have an answer for this. I do feel like I know the answer, and I feel like it's the latter, but I'm trying to decide if this is like a middle ground thing. I don't know. I genuinely do not know. What I do know is that, like I said, I'm very proud of myself with my content. Not to pat myself on the back. What's that one? I think it's a Demi Lovato clip. No, it's a Gabby Hanna clip where she's like, not to beat my own horn, but beep the fucking beep. I am very proud of what I've done with content creation. On Mother's Day, I had a moment where I was just kind of like talking to my mom in the ether and stuff. And I was just saying that, like, I was telling her that I hope that she was happy with what I've been able to do with this, right? Because I was telling her that I'm really happy with myself. You know, it's weird because I do take myself very seriously, but I'm also like the first one to crack a joke about myself. And it's so funny to me when someone will see me in person and they're like, you're like a celebrity. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not a celebrity. But then in my head, I'm like, I'm more than a celebrity. I'm a fucking star. No, I'm joking. But like, I am very proud of what I've been able to do with content creation. I've been able to take this, you know, this little passion of mine and turn it into something where I get recognized out in public. I literally was working at a coffee shop yesterday, and my back was turned towards most of the people that were in the coffee shop. And I got up to stretch and go use the bathroom. And I remember, like, as I got up and turned around, these two girls that were sitting behind me, the one girl gasped when she was like, oh, you're from TikTok. And I said, yeah, babe, I am. What's up? And they're like, oh my God. And like, to have that reaction, and it's literally just, it's just sham. It's just little old me. And people are like excited to see me in public. And like, I get stopped sometimes and people are like, oh, I love your stuff and all this stuff. And someone literally made a TikTok about meeting me. Like, fuck yes, I'm proud of what I've done. And I should be, because this is not easy work. Like, is this easy to prop up this camera and talk? Sure. Yes, maybe. But also like to acknowledge that it's 1:55 a.m. I started, because I worked today. I edited 2 TikToks. Also had to clean to make one of those TikToks. It was a cleaning TikTok. I did that. I've been working on my outline throughout the day when I had the time to. I ate dinner, and now it's 1:55 a.m. and I'm filming this podcast. It's 1:55 a.m. on a Saturday, and I plan on filming this podcast and posting it, or I plan on editing this postcast. Hello? I plan on editing this podcast and posting it within the week. Is talking to the camera easy? Yes. But is everything else after that? No. I would even argue that even like filming the podcast is easy because it's literally just me setting up one camera and talking. But I mean, as you just saw, sometimes the words don't come out as easily. But even filming TikToks is not that easy. And you would think it's easy, but like when you're actually doing it and realizing how much time it takes, it's a lot. And it's very easy to see people start doing it and then decide to not do it anymore. Because it is a lot of work. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm doing all of my content things well. You know, I'm doing really well on TikTok, but I've also, you know, dropped off on my main channel on YouTube. I haven't posted on my podcast in a while. I'm very inconsistent with this, but I'm trying my best. But I'm saying all that to say that regardless of all that, I am proud of what I've done. And I should be, because I've worked fucking hard for it. I'm getting very Capricorn right now, but I am proud of what I've done. I've worked so hard for the things that I've done. I've gotten brand deals. I'm getting messaged by various brands, whether it's like, you know, random TikTok shop sellers or things like that. Like I'm getting messages from brands to see if they could send me something or whatever the case may be. And it's really nice. And trust me, I'm not talking about in a way to brag. I'm talking about in a way of like, I'm so grateful that I have had the tenacity, good word, to stick through with this and do the best I can with what I have. So when that person said that I make content about shit that no one cares about, that's just not true. People care. And I know this because people tell me they care. The people that stop me in public and act like they're seeing a celebrity, that shows me that I'm not talking about shit that people don't care about. So, yeah, I don't know. But the last thing that I was thinking about is, because I was telling one of my friends about what had happened, and just because they obviously know me and then they know the other person involved with this. And she had brought up an interesting idea that, you know, someone like Joe Rogan is obviously very polarizing for whatever reason. You know, whether you are a diehard fan of his or whether you are someone who literally just does not care about him like I am, you can admit that he's a very polarizing person. And what my friend told me is that the defensiveness of this person about Joe Rogan had to come from a place of knowing that he is polarizing, or maybe even knowing that he is not a good person. And that's why you get so defensive. And I'll take a sip of water. And when she said that, it really kind of opened my mind up to something. And it kind of like a light bulb clicked for me. And I thought about it in the context of like, for example, you all know I live, laugh, love Bruno Mars. I adore Bruno Mars. I think he's a fantastic artist. I think he's an incredible songwriter. I think his production in his music is incredible. I think he is a class A1 performer. And above all else, I think he's sexy as hell. I love Bruno Mars. And whenever I talk about him, even when I'm like jokingly defending him, like I'm defending him in earnest because I genuinely do think he's a good artist. He also is like very unproblematic, right? Versus another real life example. The other day I was on live on TikTok and I was just talking with my girlies, and I brought up how on me and Jared's first date, we were talking about Euphoria, and I said like, oh, I'm a Cal Jacobs apologist. And all my like viewers in the comment section on live were like, girl, what? Are you okay? And I'm like, you guys know, I know he's a bad person, but listen. And I always thought that people didn't like him because Jules was underage when they had sex. Spoiler alert for Euphoria if you've never seen it. I thought people didn't like him because Jules was underage when they had sex. But I knew from the beginning that Cal didn't know that. And he had like said that multiple times throughout the season. It's like, oh, he didn't know that she was underage. But then the girlies quickly got me together in the comments on TikTok Live. They did it respectfully, of course. But they were like, no, girl, but he recorded her without her permission. And I said, oh, T, you ate that one thing. Thank you for telling me that. But I bring up those two things for two reasons. The way that I defend Bruno Mars, an unproblematic, talented singer, versus the way that I defend Cal Jacobs, a problematic character, are two different ways. With Bruno Mars, I don't get defensive because look at the material, it's there. With Cal Jacobs, I get defensive because he's a problematic person. It's a problematic character. Not Eric Dane, the actor. Eric Dane, who I love so much. Eric Dane, who's also sexy as hell. But I think that's what it comes down to. the reason this person got so defensive about Joe Rogan is because ultimately he is polarizing. And it's not even just a matter of whether or not I disagree with his political takes, but Joe Rogan has said and done some problematic things. Joe Rogan, I believe once or twice, which I think once is honestly just enough, but during COVID, he spread a lot of misinformation about vaccines and things like that. That's harmful. When you have a fan base, when you have a listening base as large as his, it's very irresponsible to use that. And a lot of medical professionals reached out to Spotify to do something about that episode because you're spreading misinformation during a time where people are so susceptible to it. And at a time that it's so irresponsible to do so. That's problematic. That has nothing to do with political views. That's problematic. Specifically, Joe Rogan has allowed people with controversial opinions to come on his podcast, thereby giving them a platform to speak. I'm just going to read this straight from the notes that I wrote down, but he invited Alex Jones on for multiple episodes. Alex Jones is known for conspiracy theories, including claiming that the Sandy Hook massacre was a hoax. He was deplatformed by major social media platforms for spreading hate speech and misinformation. Despite Jones' reputation, Rogan has hosted him multiple times, allowing him to discuss conspiracy theories without substantial pushback. In one episode, Jones falsely claimed vaccines were a part of a global depopulation agenda. Rogan did occasionally challenge Jones, but still gave him hours of airtime. Milo, I don't know if it's Milo or Milo, but Milo Yiannopoulos was a prominent alt-right figure known for making inflammatory remarks about race, gender, and sexuality. Rogan hosted him on the podcast to discuss free speech, giving Milo a platform to spread controversial opinions without much critique. After Milo was banned from Twitter for inciting harassment against actor Leslie Jones, Rogan defended him, calling his behavior just trolling rather than holding him accountable. But again, this is the person that... Okay, I mean, the person who made these comments to me, this is their favorite podcaster. Or this is someone that they, completely shit on me to defend. And then I won't really get into the political stuff just because also something that this person also said, they were like, I'd made a comment about how I just thought it was interesting that like Joe Rogan was like giving out political advice. And this person again jumped down my throat and they're like, well, yeah, it's easy for someone to say that. Like, if you actually listen to his podcast, you know his beliefs the entire time. So then what are they then? What are they? Because what someone's beliefs are the whole time versus what they have been most recently during the most recent election are two different things. Because I'm aware of what Joe Rogan's political beliefs were at the time. He was a Bernie bro. But the Bernie bro to Trump pipeline is very wide and it's very common. But anyway, yeah, I was just bringing this up. I was highlighting this not to just trauma dump and spill tea with y'all, but I was bringing this up just to talk about the idea of what it feels like to feel like people are constantly taking a shit on you, especially in areas where you feel like you're so proud of yourself and you just want other people to share that success with you or share that feeling with you. And when they don't, it's like, damn, wait, well, I thought maybe you'd be happy for me. I thought you might be one to support it. But I don't necessarily think I'm quote unquote out of the situation. I'm still kind of like mentally grappling with it. But what I will say is that it has given me a newer and stronger belief in myself because, that incident just happened. And since then, I've probably gotten recognized in public at least 4 times. Videos are doing well on TikTok. I'm trying to, just get back onto it with my other platforms. And it's just reaffirmed my belief in myself that I am that girl. That I'm doing good work. I'm fucking proud of myself. Even if this person that I thought maybe would at least, maybe not be proud of me, but at least be happy for me. If no one else is, I am. But the thing is that I know other people are. I have many family members and friends and my loving boyfriend who is very proud of me, and they like what I do and they support what I do. And it is what it is, you know? And this is just, you know, I want the same way that I'm reaffirming this in myself. I hope that when someone try to make you feel bad for the things that you like, the things that you know you're doing well in, I hope quite literally that your haters are your motivators and that it reaffirms something within you. Because when they said that, I didn't have a single moment of doubt. It's not like I sat back and thought, damn, maybe my shit is stupid. Maybe no one does care about it. I never thought that. I knew, and I would have known this even without the good things that happened just after that incident. I would have known that it doesn't matter what you think because I believe it in myself. And you should believe it in yourself too. Quite literally, the only person holding you back is yourself. Don't ever let someone else tell you that what you'd like to do, the things that give you fulfillment in life, don't ever let someone tell you that that's not worth pursuing. Don't ever let someone tell you that what you're doing doesn't matter. Because you know what? If it is fulfilling something inside of you, then it does matter. And that's all that matters. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm still feeling kind of weird about the situation, but I believe in myself. I bet on myself. I trust myself, and I'm proud of myself. And I hope that you say those things to yourself every day as well. You deserve to be proud of yourself too. But that's my time, you guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't be too long until I see you again. I'll talk to y'all later. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to everyone else. Let's have some fucking empathy for each other. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.